And what do you think is the role of a teacher then?
I think the role of a teacher is to just be available, just be there. That's literally the easiest job to do. Um, there was this many years ago, actually. I think I had just become a teacher. It must have been my first year of teaching or something. And we were in Shakti Kutir at that time. It was this one afternoon, and there was not too many. There was just Gurudev. There was this one other teacher who I had done a few courses with, and her friend. And Gurudev was in this great mood, and I don't know if you must have seen Shakti Kutir, and there's this pillar right in the middle, and he was twirling around, and he was giving me so much attention and really pampering me like a child. And so this teacher said to Gurudev, she said, Guruji, she's my student. She's done my course. And so Gurudev paused and he looked at her and he says, "Oh, she's your student?" And he looks at me, he says, "Chalo, pair chho, go touch her feet." So it was very awkward because I didn't have that relationship with her. But I said, "Well, Guruji says it, so I'll do it." So I went to touch her feet and she said, "Oh, no, 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 no." She got conscious. And Gurudev said, "No, let her touch it. She's not touching your feet. She's touching the feet of the one that taught her the course." And that was such a huge lesson for her and for me, that as teachers, all we have to do is literally, be that hollow and empty pipe and allow for the most highest ultimate knowledge to flow through us. We're just be like that empty container, and just don't ever forget. We cannot afford to forget that he's blessed us, or given us this honor of somehow carrying and distributing and sharing this highest, utmost, most priceless knowledge with the world. I think that's the role of the teacher, is to just be there and get out of the way and let the grace flow and let the divine flow and do the magic.
And now we are talking about teachers. So about volunteers, what volunteers are for Gurudev?
I don't think any teacher can ever afford to stop being a volunteer. It's a lifetime role. We're all volunteers. But he said something so beautiful in it was Dehradun. Um, I think it was right after Silver Jubilee, 2007 March. We were all there with him. 2006 March, we were all there, and he had a day trip to Dehradun from Rishikesh. And he was invited by the governor there. The governor had this very swanky event, and he invited all the big dignitaries there, and all of them. A few of us got to go with Gurudev, and he was supposed to give the keynote speech. And he opened his uh, speech by saying that कहते हैं कि दिया जलती है, दिया जलता है, पर दिया कहाँ जलता है? उसके अंदर जो बाती है वो जलती है. You see, the lamp is lit, but it's not the lamp that's lit, it's the wick inside of it that is lit. And he says, just like that, all the work my volunteers do, and I get the credit for it. Right? And when he said that, for us, there was not a dry eye in that audience. Any of us that were his volunteers were in tears and were like, this is, we all know who does the real work, and yet he takes that crown and puts it on your head and lets you feel like you're playing a small part, an important part in all that's happening. So to him, his volunteers are the most precious.
So yeah, so Gurudev usually takes care of all his volunteers and teachers. No? Have you had such experience before?
Yes, I
Like
mean,
personally?
every single day, care. I remember even during Silver Jubilee in 2006, there was a whole bunch of us that was handling the VIP desk. And at that time, the VIP office used to be at the round kutir near the old Gurukul. That was the secretariat at that time, and we were using it as the VIP office. And so we would not have time to even go out and go to the kitchen and eat. The kitchen had recently moved to the new place, and it was just we didn't have the time to walk from this old ashram all the way to the new kitchen at the time. It just seemed so far away. And so there would be hours that we hadn't eaten anything. We were so busy with phone calls and everything. But more busy than us was Gurudev, who was taking phone calls from heads of states, was talking to people from villages, arranging all the logistics, going through the invitation. I mean, what was it that he was not looking after? He was literally micro details he was going into because he had to handle it all. In the middle of all that he was doing, he would remember that a few of us are sitting in that office and we haven't eaten. And so suddenly somebody would come with food and say, Gurudev has sent food for you because you haven't eaten food. Or like fruit baskets are coming, juice boxes are coming from Gurudev for the few of us that were at the office and hadn't had time to eat. So no matter how busy he is, we know how busy he is, and despite that, he will not forget putting attention on every single one of us. Taking care of every single need before we even realize we need it. We had no time to even feel hungry, but Gurudev would send us food to make sure we were taken care of. Similarly, this one time in again Nagaland, it was Diwali, and for me, Diwali and Holi are two festivals that were my favorite to celebrate. It was friends and family and all of that, and it was Diwali, and I was alone in that Kohima center, sitting. No candles, no diyas, no lights, no firecrackers around, no celebration. There weren't too many Hindu families there, so there was no celebration whatsoever. And I just sat there in my center. I'm getting phone calls from my family members wishing me, and I'm just sitting there and bawling my eyes out and crying, saying, "What sort of a Diwali is this? I should have at least gone to Shillong and met my aunt and my family and everybody there." Anyway, I was depressed. I was so upset that day. And just when I was like, fed up of that whole day being so boring and so painfully lonely, my phone rings and it's Gurudev. And he was in Calcutta for Diwali at the time, and Bhavesh was traveling with him. So he asked Bhavesh, he was in the room with Guruji, and he said, "Where is Pooja?" So he said, "She's in Nagaland." He said, "Phone lagao, call her up." So they called me, and Guruji says, "Happy Diwali." And I didn't know whether I should laugh or cry or smile. And I started jumping. I said, "Gurudev, happy Diwali to you." And he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm sitting on my bed and I'm crying because there's nothing to do. There's no diya, no mithai, no celebration." And then he says, "But why didn't you call the governor? You should call the governor and go and wish him. They will have celebrations." And the governor had done the course with us, and he was very fond of me. So he and his wife would call me often for meals and everything. So I said, "Gurudev, I don't want to call and invite myself over. They didn't invite me." He says, "No, you call them. It's okay. You call them." But it was so late that night. So the next morning, I actually called. And, on that phone call, Guruji said, "Achha, from here, I'll send Bhavesh to come and spend some time with you in Nagaland so that he can help you with work." I said, "Okay." So in 2 days, Bhavesh was coming. Anyway, so the next day I called the governor, the office, and I said, "I just wanted to, on behalf of Gurudev, wanted to wish His Excellency Happy Diwali." And they're like, "Oh, I'm so glad you called because he and his wife were trying to contact you yesterday to come for Diwali, but lines were down, phone lines were down," which was a common happening there. So tomorrow they're having another smaller celebration with the Nepali community. So we will have a car sent to you. They'll pick you up, bring you here for dinner, and we'll celebrate together. I said, "Okay, another friend of mine is coming. Can I bring him along?" And they said yes. So, on the phone, when I was talking to Guruji, I had said to him, I said, "Okay, I'll call Gurudev and then I'll take a box of mithai for the governor." And he says, "No, don't take mithai and all that. You just take a flower for him." Now in my head, I'm thinking, how will I go with one flower to him? And where do I find flowers? There was no florist who can nicely arrange it, make a little bouquet out of even one rose. I just said, "Okay." And strangely, the next day when Bhavesh arrived, just before we had to go for dinner, we were meeting for the first time after we had gotten engaged. So from the airport in Calcutta, he had picked up a bouquet with one rose and some ferns and all that, like a little thing that he carried. And he brought that, and I was so happy to see the bouquet more than I was to see Bhavesh. But that's the bouquet that we took to the governor house, and I said, "This Gurudev has sent this for you, and happy Diwali." And he says, "How thoughtful. We have so many boxes of mithai, so I'm so glad you didn't bring us mithai. But nobody has given us fresh flowers until today in Nagaland because there isn't a florist here." So this means a lot more than anything else. And so he took that, in front of me, he put it in a flower vase and all of that. So I wouldn't have known. If I would have, A, I would have never called the governor. B, I would never have taken one flower for him. But everything Gurudev from Calcutta has directed me to do. And then we went and we had this grand celebration. How in the Raj Bhavan you have all of this big spread of food, and both of us were treated like such royal guests, and there were cultural performances and lights and diyas and firecrackers and everything. It was a perfect Diwali. So even in the middle of nowhere, he will make sure that you have the best time ever. So yes, he's always taken care of it. When I look at my life today, being in Canada, the quality of my life, the everything that I have been given, there's no way that I would have ever imagined being in a place so beautiful, doing the work that I'm being able to do, and everything was handed to me. But simple things, like sometimes even back in the day, he used to be so careful. It was almost like he used to be like a parent for us. We were so young and we needed that parenting. And so he said, I think there was this one time where we had gone for Devi Puja to Manu Dadi's house. Every Friday, she used to have it at her place, and Gurudev would travel from the ashram to go to her house. And so we would all dress up and go. And so when he would leave her place to go back to the ashram, we would all rush into rickshaws and everything and try to get to the ashram before him so we could stand outside Shakti Kutir and say hi to him and see if we could get in and spend more time. And so as soon as he was leaving, a bunch of us got into a rickshaw and we left. And you know how when Guruji is driving and you're like, oh, take it next to his car and you wave and all of that. So he saw us, and at a red light, he put his window down and he said, come into my car. And so the next, as soon as we could stop, we hopped off and we jumped into Guruji's car. And he says, when the destination is one, why should we spend on two vehicles? So he didn't need to do that. He did not need to give us a lift. But just so we don't end up uselessly spending that much money, like smallest of things he would take care of. And then once at the TRM, a teacher's refresher meet, a teacher had said, Gurudev, yes, I've made this expense, but I didn't spend the foundation's money. I spent my personal money. And he said, there is no foundation's money and my personal money. Sab apna hi hai. Everything is ours only. And that hit so many of us that in his mind, there is no distinction between this person, that person, and the ashram and the foundation and its work. Everything is this one big unit, and we're all in it together. So it's not mine or yours. Everything has come to us from somewhere. Everything is going somewhere. This is so beautiful. And yet, when it comes to, this was all him being, teaching us lessons about how to be more mindful about spending. And yet, when it comes to giving, he's so open-hearted. We were in. I know I'm going back to back with stories, but this is my most favorite thing to do, is to share all of this. We were in Hartford in 2010 for Guru Purnima. That was our very first time in the US. And so we went, I think on the last day, Hartford, many funny things happened. It was our first time. We were so nervous being there with that many teachers and learning from them. It was a teachers meeting as well. And in one of the sessions in the teachers meeting, there were breakout sessions, right? So teachers could choose to go and attend a workshop on how to open a center or how to organize courses, how to talk about the research on Sudarshan Kriya. So Bhavesh and I went and signed up for, or how to learn how to organize courses, because we're new here, things aren't moving. Let's go learn some tips from other teachers. Just before the session was to start, I think Divya Kanchi Potlaji was there at that time. She came running to us and she says, are you Pooja and Bhavesh? And we said, yeah. Says, okay, so Gurudev wants you to conduct this session. And I said, what session? It just says how to organize courses. I said, but I signed up to learn how to do it. It just says, too bad. He wants you to share how to do it. So how that happened and how somehow what we said made sense to everybody. But he really, just when you begin to feel small about yourself, he lifts you up and puts you on a pedestal. Really, when he says Vyakti Vikas Kendra, har Vyakti ka Vikas is his job. And that's what he made sure he did with us. And so on the last day, he called us to his room in the hotel and he said, "What's your plan?" So I said, Bhavesh and I were there together, and we said, Guruji, we've never been here, so tomorrow we're going to New York and Boston for 3-4 days, and then we'll go back to Calgary. He says, "Oh, first time, Jackie Gomo, go and have a good time and everything." And then he looks at us and he says, "Acha suno, paise hain tumhare paas? Do you have enough money?" And we really didn't have much. And just at that time, we were told that you have to change the way you dress and you have to be more North American friendly and everything. So we were like, we have to go shopping. We didn't have enough money, but we didn't say anything. So we said, "Yes, Gurudev, we have money." He didn't know this at all. So we said, "Yes, Gurudev, we have money." He takes us to the side and he says, "Nahi, Pooja, tumhare paas kitne? How much do you have?" I said some little amount. And then he says, "Bhavesh, how much do you have?" Bhavesh said, he says, "No, this is not enough." He called the board member at that time. He said, "Inko abhi ke abhi itne paise do." And so he made sure we had enough money to go see new places, to go do our shopping and all. Like, who does that? That really, when you think about it, no guru does that. But for us, he's not just this one framework of a guru that we seem to have in our mind, right? He's everything in your life, in my life at least. For me, he's really everything. Sometimes he's been a parent, sometimes he's been a teacher, and everything I've needed. So he, yeah, absolutely takes care of every single thing that you may ever need, and sometimes even before.
Has Gurudev given you any plan of action where you should go, what you should do? Maybe you went to Arunachal, you went to Africa.
Yes, he has. Sometimes his plans have been very definite, and sometimes they've been absolutely not definite, very fluid. Like this, the second time that we were in Arunachal, first time I was there was 2002 or 3, and then the second time when I was there was 2008, 7 or 8, and he was coming back there, and he said, we had spent like a whole year, the 8 months, organizing his visit. There was a whole bunch of us, and he said we were so sure that after this visit is done, we'd all had it. We all wanted to just go to a city and be in some luxury, some entertainment, get out of a rural area, right, at that time. And so we all decided Guruji leaves, and next couple of days we're all out of there. And the last night that Guruji sat with us, he said, "यहाँ से तो निकलने की तुम लोग अभी सोचना भी मत. Don't even think of getting out of here. I have just come. So much work is going to happen. You cannot even think of leaving." So all of us sat back. And a few weeks, 2 weeks from then, we get an email from Vasanti ji. She was the NTC at that time. She says, "Gurudev has blessed both of you to go to Jordan." So we were so excited that, oh, not only are we getting out of the northeast of India, but we're also going abroad to a new country, such a beautiful place. So I said to Bhavesh, teach your courses here. He was teaching a DSN at the time in Pasighat. I said, "You teach. I'm going to go to Shillong and meet my parents. That's where they were." And I said, "I'll just say bye to them and I'll meet you in Guwahati. We'll take the flight together." And he's, there was this help in our center there. Her son, little boy, used to come every evening. Her mother used to help. His mother would cook for us food and clean the school. We ran a school there, so she would clean the school, take care of the kids. This boy used to come and hang out in the evenings. So he was like a buddy of mine. Every evening I would send him to go and buy me a packet of Parle G biscuits so I could dip it in tea and have. And so when I was leaving, I called him. I said, "Come here," and I gave him all my expensive sweatshirts and track pants and everything and branded clothes, and I gave it to him and I said, "These will fit you. These are not girly as well. You wear them. I'm leaving." I said, "Now I'll go to Jordan. Before that, I'll go to Bombay and do my new shopping." And I went to Shillong. And just, I think the day before I was supposed to leave Shillong and go to Guwahati and take a flight to Bombay to go to Jordan, we get a call from Vasanti ji saying, "Gurudev has said there's no need to go to Jordan. Stay in Arunachal." And so I go back to Arunachal with no clothes, nothing, because I've given everything away. And I see this little boy running around the center in all of my clothes. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, I need to go shopping now for Arunachal. So his plans have really, but they're fun. I mean, I think if we are stuck in our mind about where we want to go, how and when we want to go, then there's friction, then there's trouble. But if I'm able to be in that situation where I'm saying, okay, this is a game that you want to play with me, come on, I'll dance to your tunes. Let's play, let's have fun. Then when you're flowing with that, it's just he gives you the opportunity to experience so much growth, so much fun, so much celebration on the way. Mm. There's a story with Bhavesh actually. I don't know if he mentioned this, but it was quite hilarious because with Bhavesh, for some reason, I felt Guruji was constantly being, keeping a check on him, reading his mind. So he was in Kenya or Egypt, I think, at the time, and Gurudev called him and said, "What's your plan?" So he says, "Nothing, Gurudev. I'm going here, there. I have courses." He says, "Why don't you travel more in Africa and go and do a little bit more work in other countries and all?" So in his head, Bhavesh had always wanted to go to South Africa. So in his head, he's thinking, "Are wow, send me to South Africa. I'll go there and go to Joburg and or Cape Town and all these beautiful places and teach courses." And just when he thought that, Gurudev says to him, um, "East Africa ka map hai na tumhare paas?" And then he started to, like, he just immediately put him back in check, and he says, "You should go to places like Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, Libya." It's all of these places where he had to go start out of living, and basically anywhere but where he wanted to go. So I think the whole fun of planning with Gurudev is when you're in a state of mind to just allow him to do this with you. That's when it's most fun.
Did you ever feel that Gurudev is all about perfection?
He's I don't think he expects perfection from people. He has utmost patience in terms of that with all of us, because none of us are even close to perfect. But he by himself is an epitome of perfection in the smallest of things, whether it is the way he carries himself, the words he chooses to speak, the clothes that he wears I mean, his actions, his intentions, everything is beyond perfection. So much so that we were in the German ashram, I think it was 2007, and he said, he came from India. This was Christmas time, and German ashram Christmas celebrations were beautiful. The whole ashram used to be decorated. There was this grand dinner that was prepared. There were cakes and music, and it was a real Christmas party. And Gurudev came there from India with his bags full of not clothes, not books, nothing of his. He came with bags full of Indian snacks and sweets. He said, "It's Christmas time. I want to bring treats for the Germans here." And so he has opened, we went to his room and he said, "Chalo, ye bag open karo, open this, open that." And we opened all the bags. There was farsan and kakra and mithai and katoris and like all kinds of these snacks, gujju snacks. And he said, "Now put everything in trays and we'll take them down for dinner." So we started to just open packets and pour them into these trays and, okay, this is ready, this is ready, this is ready. And he came out into the hall. He says, "What is this? Ye kya kiya hai?" We said, "Guruji, you said to open it." He says, "Yes, but it's a party. This is not how you present. There has to be such fineness and skill in presenting. Is this how you present food? Nobody will feel like eating it also the way you all have put it." And then he has personally sat on the floor and taken every piece of that mithai and that snack and arranged it in a way where everything looked like a pattern. It looked like a piece of art on the floor. I still have the picture with me and I show it to people sometimes. I'm like, this is what he spent an hour and a half doing with us. So absolutely he is perfection personified.
Wow. Any other memory, Didi, of travel or at the airport or anything like that?
I haven't traveled too much with him, but the few times that I have been so memorable. Whether it was like he travels first class, business class, and we're all economy, and uh, he can always bypass all of these lines. In fact, the staff comes to him and says, "Oh, at that time they used to call him Mr. Shankar." And they said, "Mr. Shankar, please come to the front of the line." And he would say, "No, no, I'm going to wait with my group." three, four of us young people, and we said, Gurudev, please go, we'll meet you inside. And he said, no, no, it's okay, I'm waiting. He would wait in the line. Or, you know how Indian airports people line up even more half an hour. And he would stand up. He said, Gurudev, why don't you sit down and you will join us when we get closer. Yes, he would wait in the line till he was satisfied. And this few years ago, in I think it was 2015 or something like that, you know, recently, a few years ago, he was in Montreal. And at the airport, he was leaving to go to Europe. There were two or three people traveling with him from Montreal to Frankfurt. And somehow there was myself and two other teachers here from Canada. The three of us, you know, I happened to be traveling. We all happened to be taking flights at the same time. So we were inside the airport. I got to go to the lounge and spend some time with Gurudev and everything. And so when he was leaving, the three of us went with him to his gate, you know, after when the check-in line or whatever, and he, of course, was taken right in the front. And he's so sweet. He didn't just rush into the flight. He waited in the line because he knew we were waiting there to watch him. So the last glance that we could get of him, we were going to wait there and watch him. And he was leaving after like a beautiful week of Guru Purnima with us, and so we were crying at the airport, and people are looking at us and what is wrong with these people? And Guru was going, and he kept turning back and saying bye to us, kept turning back and saying bye until he finally disappeared into the flight. And from the flight before takeoff, our friend who was traveling with him, she texted me and said, "It is so beautiful. When you guys were waiting and watching him, Gurudev was talking about y'all." And I said, "What did he say?" And she says, he said, you know, he said, look at this devotion. It is so precious. They're not bothered that people are watching them and, you know, wondering what's going on. Till the last glance that they can get of me, they are there. And then he said, these tears of gratitude and gratefulness is what purifies this creation. You know, so when she said that to us, we had another episode of just bawling and crying. I think our entire 4 or 5 hour flight home was just in tears of gratitude because we heard what he said. And it really, you know, I don't know what it does to the creation, but it definitely purifies our soul for sure. You know, and to be able to experience this kind of grace and devotion in itself is such a blessing, you know, that Gurudev has made so easily accessible for us to experience. Just a few moments of that itself seems to, you know, rejuvenate is a mild word, but literally feel like you're reborn again.
You and Bhavesh, where both of you are married and you are full time since a long time. You are traveling everywhere for art of living. How does this life is different than other couples when you see, and how both of you got married? We would love to know that also.
I'm not going to go into details of how we got married because that would have to be another episode by itself. But how we're different, I just feel like we're so blessed. We're like a regular couple. Yes, we have misunderstandings and arguments, but thank God, thank God for all of these practices and knowledge that nothing sticks. You know, in a few minutes, sometimes maximum of 1 or 2 hours, we're fine. We're back to normal. You know how Gurudev says that when it's a couple that is going parallel, you want the same thing, then life is easy. It's when you want different things, you cross, and that's where conflict arises. So for us, in that sense, this has been such a blessed life. But how we got together was not as smooth. Guruji had a huge part to play in it, of course. I feel like he orchestrated the whole thing. So we actually met during our TTC phase one back in 99 or 2000 or something. And we were friends, very casual acquaintances. And then somehow we landed up in Arunachal Pradesh at the same time to organize Gurudev's visit in 2001. And that's where we became very good friends, you know, and gradually Pavish began to be more interested in me. And I didn't know that he felt differently or whatever. And so I was being very naive, and everybody around me seemed to recognize that. There was Sanjita Didi, there was Kunjal Didi who came for some time. Um, Tanuja Didi would tell him, and everybody who saw us together was like, of course, you know, he wants to be with you. And I said, no, we're just friends. Anyway, so somehow things happened and Gurudev came. And on the last night, Bhavesh and Ajay Tejasvi, actually, the two of them were massaging Guruji's feet. And Gurudev looks at Bhavesh and he says, so, तुम्हारे शादी का क्या plan है? What plans of marriage? And he says, Guruji, nothing. I don't want to get married. And he just looks at him straight into his eyes and says, you want to get married to Pooja? And Bhavesh had not said this to anybody. So he just said, yes, I want to marry her. And Gurudev said, just focus on work and, she's not interested. And he just kind of spoke for me and he just brushed away the whole thing. And then the next day he tells me, you go to Meghalaya and work there. You know people. I'm from Meghalaya. So he said, go there and work. And so many people know you. He packed me off. But Bhavesh and I continued to stay in touch. We talked hours on the phone. And by then I knew how he felt about me. But for me, he was my best friend and I couldn't stop talking to him. So we'd talk all the time. He'd come visit me, which was like a 15-hour bus journey and not a comfortable one, but he'd come visit me and all that. Every time he met with Gurudev would ask him, so what's happening with you and Pooja? And he'd say, Gurudev, nothing. He said, why are you talking so much? You're wasting so much time on the phone. Focus on work. And, I'll find you, or both of you separate people and different people. Just focus on work. So that's what we would do. But then we would again start talking. And then he would really pick on Bhavesh. He never said anything to me. He'd pick on Bhavesh and say, stop talking to her. Enough. You're wasting too much time. So Bhavesh would call me and say, Gurudev, I said not to talk, so I'm not going to call you. I said, okay. After a few months, he'd meet Gurudev again. He'd say, so what is Pooja saying now? He said, nothing, we're not talking. Said, who's told you not to talk to her? Call her. Why aren't you all in touch? So he would call me back and he'd say, okay, now he wants us to talk. So we would talk again, something. So this went back and forth many, many times. In between, he got me engaged to somebody else and that didn't work out. And again, Bhavesh and I were back talking. And so this went on for about 4.5 years until in 2005, I think Bhavesh said to me, 2006, Navratri, he said, I'm done. You either say yes to me and we get married, or if it's a no, then we need to just go our separate ways and focus on work. I didn't want to lose him as a friend. So I said, okay, by Dussehra, I'll tell you. Somehow in that Navratri, something happened where on Dussehra day, I go to him and I say, okay, if Gurudev says yes, then we'll get married. He says, okay, so you're saying yes to me. So I said, if Gurudev says yes. Somehow I said, maybe Guruji just won't say yes, And so Bhavesh goes to Guruji that night. And he went and sat in front of Gurudev and he didn't say anything. Just going, how we wait for our turn to talk to Guruji. So Bhavesh was waiting and Guruji looks at him and he says, come. So he went there and he didn't even open his mouth and Gurudev looks at him. He says, kya? Pooja ne haan bol diya. Like, what? Pooja said yes. So he said, yes, Gurudev. He says, chalo, fir band baja bhi hai. Navratri time, right? So he said, band baja hai, barati hai, kal shadi kar lo. So he said, parents don't know anything. And he said, okay, you find the next date, the time in the ashram and get married. So that December is when we got married. But the next day, whoever was coming to the kutir, he'd say, oh, look, I got these two hooked up. Look, I fixed their marriage. Look, these two, I did. He took full credit for our marriage, which I loved. And after that, many people would go to him and say, Guruji, I want to marry this one. I like that one. And he would just tell them things like, I made it happen for Pooja and Bhavesh, no? I'll make it happen for you also. Like, that's how he was talking about our marriage. So for me, it was like, he's handpicked the two of us to be together, but he didn't let that happen until I was ready, because otherwise, my whole life I'd say, oh, I only married him because Gurudev said I should. I wouldn't take responsibility for my marriage or anything that happened with it. I would be easy to blame Gurudev for anything that may have gone wrong. But he waited till I was ready. And now, because I have said yes, everything that happens in my marriage is my responsibility. But I love the fact that he's literally orchestrated and created ways and situations for this to have happened for us.
And you feel so special when, he's so much involved in your day-to-day life and your decisions. You feel so much special.
I mean, I struck gold with Bhavesh. There's no doubt about that. He's a fantastic guy. But had I not listened to, if I'd gone and looked for people on my own, I don't think I would have. I don't know where I would have been, but I feel absolutely utterly blessed that he gave me this.
So many teachers and volunteers are watching maybe from Canada or from India also. You're from Meghalaya, so your Northeast friends are also watching. What learning you would like to share with them from your own experience on the path?
I just, this life is a gift, and he has wrapped it up in the most beautiful wrapping paper, and you enjoy not just the whole process of unfolding it, but also diving deep and enjoying the treasures. And just never forget that. No matter what it is that we're going through, on the face of it, it may seem like it's challenging or it's difficult, but there is absolutely nothing that is happening in our lives that is not supposed to be happening for a reason, that doesn't have a gift hidden somewhere in it for us. One last story maybe I can share is, again, in our early days in the Northeast, we were organizing a visit for Gurudev. There was a whole bunch of us as teachers, and we were all very new teachers working to organize this visit. And there was one teacher there who was the most experienced senior teacher there, and she was very firm. And she had to be, because we were all like little children running around, and she had to be this matron, sort of, taking control of us, keeping a check on money, food, everything, discipline. So we were finding it very difficult to be around her. That time we thought it was a huge challenge, right? Because we were spoiled brats, we were just new. And so when Gurudev came, and he sat with us, and the teacher was out doing organizing some stuff, and we were sitting with Gurudev, and we started to complain and said, Gurudev can't be with her, she's so difficult, this, that. And at that time we suggested names to Gurudev. Why don't you send this one, that one? He said, why don't you send Sejal Didi here? She's so nice. We can all work with her. And this one is very difficult to be with. At that time we thought she was difficult. Today I realized what a blessing she was. She was the one that kept a check on us. But Gurudev stopped, and he let us rant and grumble about this and went out. And then he looks at us and says, सेजल के साथ तो कोई भी काम कर लेगा, पर तुम्हारा ग्रोथ इनके साथ काम करने में है. यहाँ तुम स्किल लर्न करोगे. Your growth lies in working with her. This is where you will develop skills. With Sejal, anybody can work. It's easy. Because we all know how pleasant she is, right? And for us, that was such a huge lesson, which at that time we didn't see. Today, when I look back, and there was so much to learn from her, and the way she was, the discipline, um, just her, she was so clear about everything. There was no two ways. So there was a lot to learn from her, for sure. So sometimes it may feel like it's unpleasant or it's challenging, but like I said, everything is a gift. We have to have an eye to look for it. Just the fact that we are sharing this lifetime on this planet with Gurudev is the biggest blessing that we could have got. And this is something we cannot afford to forget. This is what makes our life so special.
What is Gurudev for you, Pooja ji?
What is he not? He's my everything. I can't pick one aspect of my life and say this is it. What is he not? He's everything.
And if he's there in front of you right now physically, how would you like to express this gratefulness, this love towards him?
I'm happy to say I'd like to tell him, let thy will be done. But we all know that when we're in front of him, you may have this beautiful speech in your head, but when we're in front of him, we're complete buffoons. We're so overpowered and engulfed by his love and all his peace and his energy that nothing, your mind is empty. You're left in silence, and sometimes you're dumbfounded. You may mumble something if he asks you a question, and you move on, but that dumbfounded silence that his beauty and his love and his presence puts you in, to me, is the most beautiful. And whether in that moment there's tears or not, or whatever, there's words or not, it doesn't matter. So I don't care. I stop planning on what to say to Gurudev, because no matter how much planning I go into it, I completely go and make a fool of myself in front of it. But if I'm able to open my mouth and make some sense, I think I'll tell him, let thy will be done.
Beautiful, Poojaji. It was wonderful to have all this discussion for around 1 hour. We are discussing, and it is, yeah, it's so much insightful. It is so much inspiring. It is so much full of devotion, and it was beautiful listening to all your stories, Poojaji.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to once again share them.
Thank you for coming online. And those who want to contact Pooja Tolani ji, you can see the email here, Pooja Tolani @artofliving.ca. So you can contact her on this email ID. If you want to share your experience, you can write on Sri Sri Guru Grace Stories @gmail.com. If you're not yet subscribed, you can subscribe to Sri Sri Guru Grace Stories to on youtube.com Guru Grace Stories to see more such senior art of living teachers coming and sharing their experience on the path and insights on the path and their beautiful incidences with Gurudev. Thank you, Poojaji, for coming.
Thank you.
Jai Gurudev.
Against foreign invaders and cancer, everything from HIV infection to the common cold. And what's been found is that the number of natural killer cells produced by our immune systems is significantly higher in people who practice Sky than the population at large. In today's world, if we want to increase the likelihood of a long, happy, and healthy life, we must be proactive in getting our stress levels under check and increasing the wellness aspect of our nervous system. And harnessing the power of the breath through specific breathing techniques is one of the easiest and most effective ways to do this.